So, how's everyone doing this morning? Yeah? Let's see. Looking at the presentations, there's some interesting. You all been here since Monday? Everyone been here since Monday? I just flew in last night and missed some interesting ones. There's one called, that really caught my attention. It's called The Rewards of Jealousy. That's an interesting name. How'd they come up with that one, Rewards of Jealousy. Then, yeah, some weird names here, I gotta tell you that. But anyway, it's good to be here. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. So it's, we're going to keep it relatively light and easy. So please feel free to step in and ask questions as you need to. This is going to be try to make it a dialogue, not so much of a monologue. I'm not here to deliver the State of the Union. So my name's Hasnain Rizvi. I go by Has. I'm with an entity called the AAA Institute. We're based out of Southern California. And I'm also a founder of another consulting firm called Global PM Inc. And we do OPM3 assessments. Does anyone know what OPM3 is by chance? OPM? It's the Project Management Institute's assessment model for going into an organization and assessing how mature they are in terms of the way they run projects. Okay, so that's what they do. And we're a certified provider in that particular space. So anyway, the agenda will be as follows. We'll quickly go through a little bit of introduction. I want to talk a little bit about the history of Agile. Who's here deals with Agile? As of 4 weeks ago. Very good. Define that, Monty. What do you mean by as of 4 weeks? So what are you doing exactly now?
Well, so our product has been waterfall. We've been dictating we're going to be agile.
Okay.
For this go around.
Okay.
And IBM, so we're.
Oh, you're with IBM.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I used to work for IBM. So we're former sorority mates or fraternity. I don't know what you want to call it. I want to be gender neutral here. Okay, very good. Excellent. Very good. Yeah,
I answer your question as to what Agile is, but seeing how we can implement Agile on a global team.
Is there a specific Agile methodology you're using? Like Scrum or FDD, DSD? Scrum. Okay. Yeah, a lot of people think. Oh yes, we'll talk about that. Okay, very good, excellent. Anyone else Agile in Spain? No. All right, cool. How about you, Ivan?
Yeah, Agile is an adjective that describes something that conforms to values of Agile manifesto.
Very good. Excellent. So are you using Agile at the moment?
Yes.
Okay. How many years have you been using Agile? Couple of years. And is it Scrum specifically, or is it something else within the Agile family? Yeah, it seems like in the U.S. it's. How about yourself?
I'm a software engineer, and my understanding of Agile is on programming. We deliver our product as early as possible, then update our product as quickly as possible.
Right. So are you doing that right now, or is this a theoretical statement you're making?
Yeah, we all do that.
You're doing that. Okay, very good. And what it is. Okay. How it could work. Okay, very good. Excellent. Well, it can work. That's the good news if you do it right. And it can even work if you don't do it very right. So we'll talk a little bit about it. I want to give you a little bit of introduction on Agile. Seeing that other than Ivan, the rest of you are a little, and actually my friend here as well, Ivan and yourself. Sorry, I forgot your name. Stanley. All right, so Stanley and Ivan had a little bit more experience than the rest of you, it seems, in this particular arena. I'm going to spend a little bit more than on talking a little bit about Agile itself, and then I'll get into talking about how you can make it happen in a distributed environment. And I'll tell you why that becomes important in the Agile world, actually, in a second. Why are we specifically talking about the distributed space, like IBM, for goodness sake, because, I remember I was with IBM Canada, and the new IBM Canada president who came on board a couple of years ago, I remember when he came to our practice, which was in Saskatchewan, he said that, we don't believe in any shores. there's no onshore, offshore anymore. Every shore is the IBM shore, you know? I mean, if you think about it, right? And that really is true. You know, this idea of offshore, onshore, I mean, it's goofy now. That idea doesn't make sense. I mean, where's Skype? You know, is Skype in Vietnam or China or India? I mean, like, where is it? So it gets confusing in that regard. Agile specifically has a unique relationship with the distributed space, and we'll talk about that. Hello there. So I'll talk about that. Real quick about me. So I I came to the U.S. in the year 2000, moved from Canada, because at that time the dot-com stuff was going on, and I was supposed to become rich in 6 months and go back home and, retire. But that didn't quite happen. I caught the tail end, and I'm still here. A few years ago, we decided to go back to this. So I went to Newfoundland. Anyone know where Newfoundland is? Any idea where Newfoundland is? Geography test. Past Maine. There's a very good and accurate answer, exactly. That's the real East Coast. It's 4.5 hours ahead of us. Okay, it's as close as you want to get to Santa Claus, pretty much, you know. And that's a normal day in Newfoundland, frankly speaking. Perhaps a little bit more unusual. That's my front driveway, my van. That's a nice sunny day in Newfoundland, you know. And then from there I decided to continue the adventures. I went to Saskatchewan. So I joined IBM Saskatchewan. They have a local practice there, and Saskatchewan is pretty much, you look east, you look west, and it's all flat. The joke is, if your dog runs away, you can see him running away for 2 weeks, that type of idea. So I decided it's time to come back. So I'm back in Southern California, but our practice and our work has really grown. We're blessed. So we're doing work in, anyone know where this is? This is a famous picture. You guys know where this is? What city is that? Dubai, right? That's in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. We do some work out there. This everybody knows. From your part of the world, kind of, sort of. The French, right? France. I'm doing some work at the Schema Business School in Lille at the moment, doing some research in the Agile space specifically. So I spent some time there. This is Doha, Qatar, where the Qatar Foundation is. It's a sovereign-funded entity, and they're trying to become like leading-edge researchers around the world. And again, for them, Agile is an area of interest. And I also teach for a couple of universities. One of them is here in this city. I'm not going to make you guess anymore. This is British Columbia, Canada. Very beautiful part of the world as well, up the west coast. And so that's where I'm spending a lot of time in the air nowadays, it seems. Okay, so project management itself. Let's start back before we even talk about Agile. Let's talk about the history of project management. Humankind has been doing this forever, okay? It's been going on. We've built these amazing things, the pyramids, and archaeologists and historians are still trying to figure out how the heck did they do that, without an iPhone, and without Facebook. So, we're still mesmerized by that. In the 60s is when it really started getting formalized under this entity called the Project Management Institute. So some of you would have heard of the Project Management Institute, PMI.org, right? Yes, Ivan. Yeah, right? So they are the de facto leading nonprofit entity in the world that promotes project management, careers, and certification tracks. And hi, Matthew, how are you? Okay. So they're like the leading sort of entity there. There are some competitors out there. There was one out of Australia. Canada's got one. Their certification tracks, they've got several, including one for Agile, which is particularly popular. But there are some competitors. There's like Prince 2 out of Europe that you might know of in Spain that's competing with. Anyway, PMI launched officially sometime in the 1960s. It has a history with the military, the Navy, Washington, D.C., all that kind of stuff. In the 80s, people started looking at this and saying, there's some good stuff here. Maybe we can use this stuff in other industries. Let's formalize this. So they launched a book called the Project Management Book of Knowledge. It's called the PMBOK Guide. We lovingly call it the PMBOK Guide. And its first edition came out, and then they had yet another first edition. They kind of got stuck in that first edition for a while. They kept having new editions that were still being called the first edition. Then they came out with a second edition in 2000, and third in 2005, and now PMI has just grown exponentially. It's absolutely nuts the way they've grown across the world. And they now have all kinds of certification tags, as I said, including the Agile space. So they're really all over the place. And Agile sort of came into formal existence in the 1990s. And we'll talk about that as well, its history. So I was asking my ex-IBM colleague here, Monty, about what Agile methodology he specifically uses, right? Agile, we need to be clear, is a generic name. Okay, like we are all humans, but then specifically someone's from Spain and someone's from Russia and I'm from South Asia and blah, 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 so there are unique flavors, and that's what makes us all interesting and exciting and fun. Agile has different methodologies. It's a family of methodologies. There are some key underlying core principles that we are to adhere to, called the Agile Manifesto, okay, which came into existence in 2001. And then there's also another thing that came about in 2005 called the Declaration of Interdependence for Modern Management. It's a bit of a fancy name. Sorry, I forgot to turn my... It's a family of methodologies. Now, within this space, the most popular one, by all means, is Scrum, okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about this one in particular, but there are others that are pretty popular as well. For example, XP. Anyone heard of XP, Extreme Programming? There's some really good some really good practices there that are worthy of consideration. If I had if I had additional time, I would have shared some more information about XP. XP rocks, especially for those of you who are in the software space. Okay, there's a lot to learn from the XP space. Okay, ideas like refactoring and stuff. And again, I'm happy to send you information. I'm happy to email you stuff if you'd like to. And then the world of lean. Do we know what lean is? So my doctor keeps telling me I need to become lean. They don't know what they're talking about. But lean is basically what? Trimming the fat, right? You go buy lean meat. You're trimming it down. There's 7 types of waste in the world called muda. It's a Japanese term. And we have brought that idea. Lean has come from the world of manufacturing, okay, formally from the 1990s-ish time frame, although it's really been happening since the 1960s. And we're taking those principles from the manufacturing world and trying to, trim the fat in the way we do software development and project management and becoming more agile. Okay, so many methodologies. There's FDD, DSDM. There's Crystal. Is an exciting name, and there's a whole family within Crystal itself. It goes from yellow to red, and from very simple projects to highly complex projects. So Agile is a whole universe unto itself. Okay, Scrum is just one of the methodologies, and again, it has at the moment picked up a lot of energy here in the United States in particular, and then there's that certified Scrum Master and those type of certification tracks that people are doing, which are actually very easy to attain academically anyway. So what makes Agile different from traditional projects? In order to assess that, we first want to understand what is this traditional world. So someone mentioned the word waterfall earlier, right? I think it was yourself. This idea of waterfall. How does waterfall? Anyone been to the Niagara Falls? Or the Victoria Falls? Yeah, this is Niagara Falls here. I grew up close to this. The water falls in one direction. Okay, I haven't seen the water come back up. That usually doesn't happen in a waterfall, right? So that's the idea is that we do heavy upfront analysis. We're very plan-driven, right? So Matthew, I'm going to expect you to come up with a detailed plan right up front. Tell me what the world's going to look like 5 years from now, Matthew. I need to know now. Well, good luck with that. We got Alibaba going bonkers today and tomorrow. The whole world's going to go crazy, and we're all going to be super rich, or we're all going to be super silly. So you don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone 5 years from now. What's the price of gasoline going to be 5 years from now? Price of cement 5 years from now? What's going to happen in Ukraine 3 months from now? Can you tell me that? No, even a Russian can't tell me that. So, you want me to predict things and do heavy upfront analysis and planning for something that you're expecting me to deliver 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years down the road. So, those are some of the problems that people were seeing in this waterfall, very plan-driven process. Customers were expected to think of the business executive. I'll give you a simple example. I want you to, I come to you, you're a business executive, and I say, you know what, I think your accounting system lacks capability. So why don't you consider bringing in Oracle Financials or Oracle Project Costing or SAP Fi or SAP Co. And this poor business executive is like, what are you talking about? I can't even picture this thing. I don't even understand what SAP, what is SAP? And then he or she goes and reads about SAP and they find out it's this huge mega billion-dollar entity. And they're like, oh my goodness gracious, you're going to bring in like a Hummer for my little, solution here. So it's so abstract for them. And yet we're having them sign off on the requirements and the specs and the objectives right up front. Doesn't that sound a bit goofy? Sounds wacko to me, and we've been doing it forever. So, now having said that, of course, everything about waterfall is not bad. Today I could just as equally talk about the other side and some of the pros of waterfall. There are some advantages to waterfall. It's reliable. It's trustworthy. We can breathe. We can take it easy. We can relax. We don't need to get too energized and too excited. And we know what we're doing. We're boring. We're not as collaborative, but we know what we're doing. There's a lot of structure. We're like the military. So there are some advantages, but nonetheless, there are some problems. The general flow, okay, in the project management world is that there are these 5 process groups, according to the Project Management Institute. Okay, every project starts and ends. Projects are temporary in nature. Okay, they don't go on forever like they do in the real world. The academic answer is the project should have a defined start and a defined end. Right? So Ivan, I'm going to build a house for you. First thing Ivan asks, well, Haas, when are you starting? When can I move in? Right? That's what he wants to know. So say, Ivan, I'm going to start building tomorrow, and I expect to deliver around March 15th.
But if you buy my house, I would like to use waterfall, not Agile.
Yeah, yes, that's right, because you want that plan-driven approach, correct? And for the construction world, I would venture to guess an element of waterfall might make more sense. That's a very good comment there, okay? Nonetheless, these 5 process groups, you first initiate a project, you do some planning, executing, you're monitoring and controlling throughout. This planning and executing, by the way, is happening in iterations. We know that word, right? We have an iterative approach to life, right? We go through progressive elaboration. As I do something once and I do it the second time. The first time I paint this wall, it takes me like 2 days. The next time I paint it, I can do it in half a day. And the next time I do it, I can do it in an hour. See, the learning curve is phenomenal, right, initially, until I sort of plateau off, and this is about as good as I'm going to get as a painter. So we plan and execute a few times, and then eventually we wrap things up, we get sign-off, and we celebrate and all that kind of fun stuff. These are the 5 process groups. Interestingly, it says waterfall up there, but these same 5 process groups fit into the Agile world as well, okay? But we do this more frequently and in smaller steps. You were talking about more frequent delivery. More frequent, I will add just one other statement to it, value-added delivery. We're very value-driven. And actually, that's a good and a bad thing. The pressure in our world, the Agile world, for you now, will be that everybody's going to go and read on Agile on the internet, right? There are a gazillion experts on Google for Agile, okay? And what they'll say to your customers is that, you know what, Agile is all about features and functionality and the user experience. So Monty, I need this feature, this functionality, and Agile says that you deliver the most important things, the most valuable things to me first. That's the philosophy, right? So there's a priority list, like it's a Christmas shopping list, right? So out of my 100 items, am I going to be able to buy all 100? Probably not, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to prioritize. I'm going to start with the big stuff first. I got to buy this for the wife. That's the first one, right? And then everything else after that, correct? My friend has a problem, though, with that. What's the problem with running and delivering based on strictly features and functionality? What challenges would you see there? Stanley? Any ideas, Ivan? Exactly. What happened to architecture? What happened to security? What happened to all this and all that? All those other things that, the TangleSaw proxy, all those reverse proxy, right? All those kinds of security layer and this and that. Where does all that go, right? Is this architecture scalable? Oh, let's just get the features out. Let's get the functionality. The pressure is on. The client knows about Agile. We've got to show them that we can deliver features and functionality quicker to them. That becomes a significant challenge. So there's got to be a balancing act there. That's the solution to that, frankly speaking. There's got to be a certain responsible amount of planning up front. Okay, this word responsible comes in Agile, comes up frequently. Number one, there has to be a certain amount of responsible planning up front. Okay, now what is that? It varies by the word responsible. Are you responsible? Am I responsible? That's obviously a subjective statement. And the second thing that we do, the word responsible comes up again, is that in terms of decisions, we wait till the last responsible moment. Does that make sense? Decisions, I want to wait till the last responsible moment. Why would I want to do that? Like, should this website be red or blue? Well, let's wait till the last responsible moment. Why do we want to delay that decision? Yeah, you want to remain agile, nimble, right? You want to remain flexible. I'm not going to tie you down to blue or red. We're open to discussing this until, of course, a certain point where it's like, listen, guys, now it's getting a bit silly. We need to make a decision so we can move on and build upon this, right? But we remain flexible. So that what does that result in? That results in creativity, innovation, brainstorming, people getting together and thinking of differing ideas and not feeling claustrophobic, right? And restricted to a particular plan. You see, the thing is, once something is written, so my friend Matthew writes a plan. He presents it to the owner of the company, right? The owner looks at it and says, this rocks. I like this plan. I'm signing off on it. That document suddenly becomes like the Holy Grail. It's been signed off by the bigwigs, right? Are you going to go and want to change that? I mean, you already have the executive sponsorship. You already have the executive on your side. Why would you bother wanting to go back? If you found a better solution, a cheaper solution, you're probably just going to quietly tuck it away. So, I've got the executives backing already. Why make life more complicated for myself, right? Agile allows you to remain nimble and flexible to the last moment, to the last responsible moment. Make sense? Okay. All right, very good. Okay, so what's Agile all about? It formally came into existence in the 1990s, okay? And a bunch of smart people, 17 very intelligent, interestingly, they're all men, but nonetheless, 17 men got together in the year 2001 and created something called the Agile Manifesto, okay? It's agilemanifesto.org if you'd like to go see it. It's a static, boring website. You can actually sign it and, say that, you believe in it and all that kind of stuff if you'd like. They got together and they agreed to the lowest common denominator amongst all these different agile methodologies. You know how I told you the Scrum and FDD and DSDM, right? All these Crystal and XP and Lean and goodness gracious, Stanley's agile methodology and Ivan's agile methodology, all these home-cooked methodologies. They said, listen, let's put it all together and let's find the most common basic ground that we all agree upon. Okay, one unifying platform, which is a brilliant idea. And actually, the Agile Manifesto is so simple to read. You have to have no technology background at all to understand and appreciate it. It's brilliant, actually. It's easy to understand. You can understand it in an hour. If you read it on your own, you'll completely understand it. Anyway, some of the key elements of Agile. Number one, In the old way, they say the approach is that, we will tell you. We're more directive. The new way, we're more participatory. Okay? The proof is in the pudding in terms of experimentation, proof of concepts, conference room pilots, prototyping. Those type of things are, instead of me saying, yeah, let's plan out for these features, I'm actually going to show you stuff, give you a sense of what reality is like. It's very focused on actual delivery to see things. We're not as hierarchical anymore. We're self-organizing, self-directing. That's quite a different philosophy. Okay, even the way we sit. I don't know how you sit, Ivan and Stanley, in your offices, but there's the idea of more of the open concept, right? Where actually the furniture now has got wheels on it. You can actually unclick it and move your stuff around, and I can now sit with Monty in a common space. It's called a common, actually. Common caves and commons. I don't know if you've heard of that concept. The idea is that any work that takes place in a common area. So does anyone here work in like the traditional cubicle type office? Wow, really? Huh? Better than open.
Because with an open plan, the things right next to my monitor are constantly in motion, always distracting my eyes. With the cube, I've got a nice solid wall I can hang my kids' work, and there's nothing distracting my
How high are your walls?
5 feet. I wish they went all the way to the ceiling.
See, right there. Interesting comments. This is the most common comment. I used to work at a company, Esri. Does anyone know Esri? Yes, right. They're the world's largest GIS provider. Okay. They borrowed a lot of ideas from like Microsoft and what have you, and there, every employee got an office. It wasn't like, some phenomenal, 7-star office, but it was an office, So, I mean, when I got hired, I kind of got excited about that. I'm going to get an office. Wow, I can shut the door, and I can kind of like have my own little space, Then they brought in Agile. Imagine, he's in a cubicle, and he's having anxiety attacks about this. If you take me out of my office, I'm going to hate you. It's my territory. Actually, it's not. You actually get paid to be here. But nonetheless, there's a sense of ownership, which is nice, by the way. It's good to have ownership. Okay, I don't want a bunch of employees who are totally not emotional about the work. I mean, I don't want to hire them. Okay, I don't want them on my team. I want emotional, excited people who are invested in my organization, who are going to give their blood and sweat for me. Right? So that's good stuff. It's not a bad thing to like your office space. But the traditional world is that. In the Agile space, we don't have the time, literally, if we're going to deliver as frequently as Stanley says we need to, of sitting in our own cubicles. With all due respect, let me explain this real quickly. We have our own spaces, but we kind of sit like this, where I can look over and see what she's doing and see what Stanley's up to, and for that there's a need for there's a cultural shift, a total paradigm shift. The paradigm shift is that you can't be blasting your music, and you can't be bobbing your head to distract me, and you can't be eating like some really spicy food that's gonna distract me again. It's got to be in this common area where we're all gonna work together. Needs to be respected, especially during certain time periods. So we may agree that, listen, guys, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. is quiet time. Okay, no monkey business between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. We're doing serious business. Everybody quiet. Just chill, okay? Now, you want to talk to your mortgage broker. You're trying to talk to your doctor. You have a toothache. You need to talk to your dentist. You don't do it here. There's a place called a cave. You go into the cave. We have phones set up there. Well, you don't need phones anymore. We've got these that walk with us, and we have them on our hands now, apparently. You go into a cave. Any non-work related, strictly non-work related communications takes place in the cave. Any work-related communication takes place in the common area. I want to meet with Matthew. I want to talk to him about, I don't like the features he's built. I want to talk to him about it. Can you change this? Can you change that? Can you add a little bell here, a whistle there? We do it in the common area. Why should I do this in the common area and disturb Ivan and Stanley? Why do you think I should do that? What's the advantage of that? Yeah. There's something called osmotic communication. It's a term that's used in the industry, osmotic communication. Have you heard that term? No? Osmotic communication. You will at IBM, I guarantee you. Okay, you have lots of good stuff to look forward to. Osmotic communication is this idea of chatter. You know, when you sit around, you hear some chatter, right? Even when you're like kind of on your iPhone. That's what I'm hoping. Like I teach in college, you know, and I'm hoping I see all these 17-year-olds. All they're doing is honestly just on their phones and watches and whatever the heck there is now. And I'm just hoping they're getting something from the osmotic piece, you know. The osmotic communication is that by just being around, you're picking up on stuff, including like body language. You can see Ivan's huffing and puffing. I can tell he's not a particularly happy man today, or he's extremely happy, or she's sad, and I'm picking up on those kinds of things too, right? But I'm also picking up on just useful information. Now, of course, because we're in a common area, we can't have these conversations all day, guys. So between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., quiet time. From 2 p.m. to 5, the floodgates are open, and we can have these little chats and stuff in the common area. Any meetings, any conversations take place in the common area. Okay, that's the Agile philosophy, and it's a cultural mind shift. And you have people ready to protest and cause revolutions. I feel like the country's going to be taken over. You know, when we bring in Agile, we did that in Saskatchewan at a client, and I mean, they say that Canadians are very mellow, calm people, and you know, but my goodness, there was a revolution going on there. People were just upset about their space being intruded. It's almost like, you know, we all have our space. If you suddenly come and stand right next to me, I'm going to feel a little invaded, right? That's how people feel. They feel like you've intruded into my territory. So but then once you get exposed, if I may use that term in a polite way, then you're cool with it, and you like it, because guess what? Everybody knows the good stuff you're doing. Whatever Stanley's doing is being plastered all over the wall. It's in a burn down chart or a burn up chart, and there's a daily stand up going on, which in the Scrum world is called a daily Scrum specifically, and there are no bushes to hide behind. There are no trees to hide behind. There are no fences to hide behind. No, that's a disaster. You never impose anything by force. Yes. Yeah, what happens is, that's a very good comment. What you want to do, the way you implementing Agile is a whole other philosophy, and I've done this a lot in many organizations. It takes a cultural, I will use the word revolution/evolution, okay? What I always tell the executives when I go into a client is that, listen, what you need to do is you need to find a sweet, soft spot. Someone in your team, one of your mid-level managers, may have read about Agile and taken a slight liking, maybe heard some speaker at a conference and said, you know, Agile kind of sounds something like worth doing. Let's get them on board. That gives us some referent influence and support at mid-level management. And then what you do is you go and you coach and mentor the staff in that pilot group. And you, again, choose not your highest risk, your highest priority project. You choose something that's kind of middle of the road, complex but safe to do, to try something new. And you try it with them. And yes, people will then there'll be chatter, oh my goodness, you know, Department XYZ is doing Agile, and guess what, you know, these guys are going to take over our world, and you know, IBM's just there to make money, and you know, you're going to start hearing those kinds of comments in the hallways, right? But nonetheless, if you are able to convince people of the value that Agile brings by getting them involved, then they will appreciate it. It's a phenomenal. You actually get some people who become like your evangelists for it. They take this on as a cult and a religion. They think this is like the best thing, you know. I mean, and they're out there like proponents for you. They're just like literally evangelizing for you. You find those positive forces and you make it happen in your organization. But yeah, it's a cultural mind shift. You have to be very careful. So real quick, yeah, go ahead. Very good question. Very good question. Yes, Agile has, and I don't have the data here today because this presentation was not oriented towards that, but yes, Agile is cheaper, quicker, and the beauty of Agile is we have learned to officially recognize that we will not deliver everything we tell you we're going to. Did you hear what I just said? Matthew, I'm not going to deliver everything I told you I was going to. And Matthew's actually going to walk out at the end, and he's going to hug me, and he's going to be like, give me a high five and say, Haas, you're like you're the best man in the world. He's actually going to be happy with me if I don't deliver 100% what I promised him. That sounds bizarre, doesn't it? Does that sound bizarre? Who does it not sound bizarre to? You go into shop, and I only give you 90% of what you asked for. How happy would you be? Would you be happy about that? I paid for 100%, I'm getting 90%. Wow, what kind of a con is this? You know? The idea is very simple, folks. It's value-driven delivery. It's value-driven delivery. It is value-driven delivery. The idea is that I will have delivered the 90% juicy stuff to you already. You're already out there making money, and you know you're going to be bigger than Alibaba, and you know you don't care about the remaining 10%. You don't have time for the remaining 10%. You're pushing me out the door. Leave. I got to run my business. I don't need you anymore. You'll be delighted that I've delivered the 90% and left. Because the remaining 10% you realize, oh, it was such a waste of time anyway. It was really not good stuff. Okay? And I might give you a little bit of a discount at the end, of course, but you know, that's another thing. But see, the philosophy is very different. So yeah, Agile is really cool. It's very creative. It's used, I live in Southern California. Actors use Agile. Actors use the Agile philosophy. Anyone here watch daytime soap operas? I mean, I don't want to know about your. You don't have to reveal everything today, but you know, daytime soap opera actors are very different than movie actors. Okay, so Stanley is working alongside. You know, I don't know. Who do you want to work alongside? Like Julia Roberts, or you could take a pick today. You know, so you know if you're working along one of those famous actors, obviously Steven Spielberg is very, very detail oriented. He'll make you redo the scene 150 times until it's perfect, right? Until your hair's right and your eyes are right and the shade of your, you know, everything has got to be picture perfect. But with daytime soap operas, they're like filming every day. If they were repeating it 150 times, they'd never get done. And do you really expect those actors to remember every single line in the script? Heck no. What do? They're agile. They wing it. They get the script, they look at it, and they kind of maneuver their way through it. And so Agile is used all over the place. It's a reality. It saves a ton of money, and it's actually kind of silly at times. Again, there's a balancing act for you to expect that level of perfection where the risks are so low. You know? Anyway, we really are focused on value. Meetings are conducted in the open. I talked about this free flow of communication with all team members. By the way, this includes the customer too. How comfortable are you sitting there talking about finances and the budget and the timeline and the risks in front of the customer? Right there. She's a real tough customer, and we're sitting there right in front of her talking about this. We're not going to be able to meet our budgetary constraints, guys. We're not going to be able to do this 100,000. She's sitting right there. How comfortable are you with that? That's really uncomfortable, isn't it? Yet a business rep or someone who represents her is there in the conversation. Okay, that's the philosophy of Agile, again. We have daily stand-up meetings. Every day we get together, 15 minutes, tops, and we stand up. We don't get comfortable because we don't want to talk about basketball and baseball and, hey, how are things in Spain? We don't get into that conversation right now, okay? It's at tops, 15 minutes. There are only 3 questions we ask in the daily stand-up. And it's called the daily scrum in the scrum world. Number 1, what did you do in the last 24 hours? What have you done, Matthew? Facts. Don't give me all this, that. No. Tell me the truth. That's it. What did you do in the last 24 hours? What are you going to do for me today, my friend? And number 3, what hurdles are you encountering right now? 3 things. What did you do in the last? Why did we pay you for your paycheck yesterday? What are you going to do to earn your paycheck today? And number 3, what issues are you encountering? That's it. Real quick. Bang, 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 bang across the room. Right? We're not solving anyone's problems. I'm not solving his problems or her problems or his problems. No, we're just getting a tally of what the heck is going on. Stanley got sick yesterday afternoon. He had to go home for half the day, so I know that he didn't get half of his stuff done. Thank you very much. Wow.
How much time I should give for one person? You know, when we have a stand-up meeting,
Uh-huh.
one person always talk, take up 2 time.
Yeah.
How much time I should give?
No. if it's that's too much. If someone's taking too much, it's too much. Trust me, you know when it's too much. It shouldn't be more than, how long would it take for you to tell me what you did yesterday? Not, give me the Cliff's Notes, please. Okay, I don't want the detailed version, and I walked and I did this and I did this and I took a copy out of it. No, and give me a value. See, give me the valuable stuff, like meeting minutes. Give me the valuable stuff. So again, here your team needs to be trained. Ivan, can you tell me what you did yesterday in 30 seconds, please? In 45 seconds? What are you going to do today for me in 45 seconds? And what issues are you having in about 45 seconds? Okay, that's a total of 2.5 minutes, right? If I did my math correctly there, approximately. Okay, information radiators. We share information. We're not shy. The good, the bad, the ugly, the brilliant, everything is shared. People appreciate being informed. Trust me.
Sometimes, in order to understand what issues occur, you need to maybe study for a few months to get the same knowledge as me.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. You tell me the title and the label of your issue. The stand-up is not the place to discuss and analyze and understand your issue. That is a separate conversation I will have with you, Ivan, so the rest of these people can be delivering value. We got people here $100 an hour with their benefits and the 401k and the fancy pensions and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to be wasting everyone's time. I don't want to be burning those dollars, right? You and I will have a separate conversation, get you the expertise you need, and we'll deliver accordingly, right? These other people can't even help you. He's an accountant. She's a UI developer. He's a legal guy. I mean, what are they going to do about your technical problem? Nothing, right? Okay, when issues arise, we try to resolve them. We try to self-correct, self-resolve, self-police. This idea of this hierarchical behemoth from the top is drawn away. So this is a picture that those of you who are dealing with Scrum will see all the time. This is specifically Scrum language. It's not Agile language, folks. This is specifically just Scrum, okay? And it aligns with some others, and it doesn't with others, okay? As I said, Agile is a family. There's a product backlog. That basically, what in our old world is, all our requirements. That's the 100% list, okay, of everything we want. Are we going to deliver all 100%? What did I tell you about that? Probably not, okay? And people going in, the beauty. So Monty, this is the best news about this thing that's happening to you, is that those who read about Scrum will know that Monty's not going to deliver everything. That's kind of nice, you know, trust me. It's a bit liberating, because in the old world, I expected you to do every single thing in that darn plan, okay? So we'll take this product backlog, we're going to start breaking it out into sprints. Sprints are short, right? Carl Lewis, remember Carl Lewis? He used to run. Short sprints, 2 to 4 weeks. Every day we have a Scrum, daily Scrum, and at the end of every 2 to 4 weeks, we deliver something of value. We deliver something of value. Now, who determines what value is? Does she or he or me or I or you? Who determines whether something is of value? Is it the QA manager? Is it the sponsor? Is it me, the Scrum Master? Who do you think determines what is of value? It's really simple. It starts with C. Customer, exactly. It's very customer driven, okay? I mean, like, I think everything's valuable that I do all day. But, you know, it's got to be determined by the customer ultimately, okay? So I'm going to go through this quickly. I'm going to just skip some of these things real quick. Agile Manifesto, these are the four key principles, okay? As I said, I could talk a lot about this. I'll be happy to share more information about the Agile Manifesto with you if you contact me. The idea is that we give a lot of value to individuals and all that interaction. That's why we're going to reduce your cubicle, and we're going to add wheels to it and be mobile and move around. And the only conversations you're going to have away from me is when you're talking to your wife and, you know, your kids and stuff like that, okay? So we're going to give a lot of value to individuals. The message here is that you could be Einstein, okay? Even Einstein could get some help from me. I could carry his bags for him, you know, I could clean his shoes for him, I could get him a cup of coffee, I could do something to save him 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, half an hour a day, okay?
But what if Einstein just wants
That's right. For that, I give you 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., Einstein. For 4 hours, we're going to be quiet, and guess what? It's going to be cool, Einstein. But we want to be around you because there's osmotic communication going on. Remember? Einstein's brilliance. Imagine if Einstein did all this in a collaborative environment where the rest of us were picking up his brain waves. That would have been brilliant. There would have been a whole bunch of junior Einsteins running around. When we lost him, you know? You know, in theory, right? Anyway, the whole idea is that individuals are respected. That's why you choose the team very carefully. You don't bring on 8 accountants because there'll be conflict. I'll be stepping on each other, and that's ridiculous as well. You know, we're not going to do that. We're going to selectively bring the team. We're going to bring the best. Again, you're fully exposed, remember here. So people just kind of selectively those who are sometimes like someone was asking about the culture stuff, those who are kind of anti-agile, they may, some of them, not all of them, okay, I will be careful about that, but some of them are just uncomfortable being exposed. They're afraid, they lack the confidence that what they're doing will become so evident to everyone, or not doing, you know. So that's part of it as well. So you have to be respectful about that. Anyway, we're not going to be very process-oriented. Like I've set up a lot of PMOs. You know, you got to have this sheet signed. Sorry, Stanley, this goes back. You got to get the seal. It's got to be a handwritten signature, my friend. This electronic stuff's not going to work, and blah, blah, blah. You know, we're following processes like to the point of insanity. You didn't answer question number 5, my friend. Got to send it back. I mean, like, you know, we're not going to be that insanely process-oriented. It's all about working software. We're not throwing away documentation. We're not throwing away notes and user manuals and help, you know, robo-help and all that kind of stuff. We're not throwing all that away. But we've really got to trim it down, guys, okay? And in the XP world, just so you know, again, I don't have time to talk about that today, but XP has some good guidance on the right balance of documentation, how you standardize it. And so XP has more guidance on that than Scrum. So, you know, Monty and Ivan and those of you who are using Scrum, you might actually want to pick up some things from the XP world in the documentation area in particular. Scrum kind of doesn't really talk about it very well, okay? They just talk about artifacts and in my humble opinion, with all due respect to the Scrum people, I think that's an area that XP beats them. Again, we're very, very collaborative with the customer. I told you, customers in with us, in the huddle. They're there, or a representative of theirs is there, okay? A genuine representative of theirs is there all the time. Instead of this us versus them. You know, contract negotiation is, you know, if I'm trying to buy a house, it's me versus you kind of thing. We're very responsive to change. We embrace change. We actually build it into the contracts. Okay, again, not to get into the details of the procurement arena, but we actually build the contracts to be change-friendly for you. Okay, those are the type of things. So I am running out of time. I apologize. These are the strategies for handling distributed agile. Now, before I talk about this, just want to mention one quick thing. Any agile philosophy that you study, read about, you will notice that they say that you should try to be co-located. You should work to be in a tight matrix. Tight matrix is what we are in right now. Everybody's together. I can see him, he can see me, she can see me, I can see who's, you know, what's going on, right? And we pick up on body language and this and that and blah, 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 right? It's useful. Osmotic communication is taking place right here. Correct? In distributed teams, good luck with that type of stuff. It gets more difficult, right? We've got all this great telepresence technology, Skype, and I can wave at you and you can smile back. I teach a lot online as well, but it's still not the same experience, correct? So in agile teams, they talk about every agile philosophy. I guarantee it, every single one that I know of says try to be co-located. But you and I know that's not the reality of the world, and it's not going to be, right? Having said that, even though the agile gods say, thou shalt be co-located, the reality is that more than 50% of agile projects today are distributed. I got a team in Colorado Springs, I got a team in Boston, I got a team in India, in China, in Vietnam, in Russia, in Saskatchewan, all over the place. So more than 50% are. So there's this dichotomy here now. It's weird. It's like, wait a minute. You teach me that you need to be co-located. You want to have osmotic communication, so I pick up on your mood swings and your body language and this and that. And then you tell me that more than half the world is not doing that. So that's a bit cuckoo. So we're trying to come to terms with that. And this is a new space. I'm actually doing research in this particular space exactly at Schema Business School in France. And there's some simple ideas here, guys. It's really not that complicated. We have phenomenal technology. Like I've been teaching online since 2007, okay? And between 2007 and now, that's what, 7 years if my math is correct, right? Technology has gotten so much better in terms of the things that I can now do to interact with students and participants online. It's just gotten so much better, so much easier. And the student population, the average attendee has learned to adapt to these technologies and features more as well, right? We're all more used to these things and accustomed to these things as well at an individual level. So, you know, we need to create rich communication channels to reduce the impact of the face-to-face. So we actually stay connected throughout the day, but it's not like a little, you know how in the old days, do you remember ICQ and those kinds of things where you had a little chat box on the side and like we're secretly chatting so our bosses don't know about it and stuff, right? Now this is open communication. I can see Monty sitting at his desk and I can see him playing with his hair and adjusting his glasses and having his cup of coffee and he's comfortable with being exposed. He has no issues with that, right? If he needs to turn off for a moment, you know, he's got a sneeze, he can turn it away and that's fine, and then he turns the camera back on. But we're connected throughout the day. We're waving at each other and we're smiling. It's like, hey, how's it going in Boston? I hear there's a snowstorm, you know? Does that build camaraderie and rapport? Yes. Make it a rich experience, okay? So we use all kinds of things. We build a communication coordinator, especially around cultural barriers, if we're dealing with international teams, you know. We have to be careful about overlapping hours. You know, I worked on a project where we had a team in Toronto, Atlanta, Israel, India, Ireland. We had to find an overlapping time. Good luck with that, you know. I don't even remember how we did it. You know, they have different weekends in Israel than they do, you know, it's Friday, Saturday that I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So it got really goofy and confusing, okay? But basically, you find a time when all of us will at least all be at work at the same time for those 1 or 2 hours. And you enrich those 1 or 2 hours with insane amount of communication. You just go like communication on steroids for those hour or two, okay? And you figure out however the heck it needs to happen. Then there isn't one solution fits all. There are all kinds of different ideas there. And of course, we invest in travel. So we don't become totally just disconnected. There's such value in the human still meeting and shaking hands and seeing eye to eye, and it's a whole other experience. People get emotional about this stuff. It's so exciting. You work with someone for 3 years and you finally meet them, it's like, ooh, wow. You know, like it's a whole other mind shift. You know, you were taller in the pictures. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. You know, like, mine always say you looked younger and thinner. But anyway, that's the whole idea. You know, you do invest in travel along the way. You create an atmosphere of e-osmotic communication, basically, is what I say. Osmotic communication, yes, of course we want to have this, but we now create an e-osmotic communication experience. You know, that's the reality, okay? We ensure visibility into the project status. So again, everybody knows, including those all over. So we use e-communication, e-collaboration, e-this, e-that, everything e. Okay? We do that. We develop virtual task boards. So we set up virtual, easy. Again, these tools are easy tools. You don't need to make this overly complicated, guys. People buy crazy stuff. Like, I'm not going to give a name of my former employer or anyone else, you know, out there. But, you know, you don't need to be buying all those complicated tools to make this happen. There are easy tools. I tell you, I believe the entire world can run on Excel. Water, Cheerios, milk, and Excel. That's all I need, and I can survive on any island in the world. Okay, that's all you need. Excel can do everything for you if it needs to. Okay? So, you know, surely you could do a little bit more, and everything's open out there. Assess your tools, working environment, see what works, you know. I mean, you got to keep the folks interested. You got to keep them excited. Sometimes you bring tools in just because you got to bring in, like, I have a generation gap with some of you guys. Some of you guys are really young in here, you know. Just to keep you engaged, I got to bring in toys for you guys. I consider them toys. As I said, I think Excel will be just fine for me. but you guys won't come to work for me if I just give you Excel. You'll be like, this guy's boring. I want to do fun stuff. So I'll bring in some tools. That's okay. That's the balancing act, okay? If we're going to bring in this creativity, we'll have to bring in some fun tools to keep them involved, okay? I'm having to skip through stuff and learn to lead E effectively. Learn to become a leader who is not physically present there. How do you maintain a presence? How do you maintain an E presence? How do I maintain influence over Ivan? Ivan sits in Boston. I'm in LA. I can only fly out once a year. That's all we can afford. How do we do that? You have to learn to develop that rapport, that ability to sound empathetic, yet in a position of influence over the phone. I don't want to sound weak to Ivan, yet I don't want to sound extremely Hitlerish over the phone to him either. How do I develop that common balance, that learn to become an E-leader? That's a whole other skill set, okay? And there are obviously fancy classes for that kind of stuff. So to recap, the specific challenge of this distributed space is interesting, right? As I said, Agile mentors and gurus out there in the world say, try to be co-located, try to be in a tight matrix, which is to be situated together. Yet we know that more than half the projects out there in the world are distributed in the Agile space specifically, right? So how do you deal with that? These are my suggestions, okay? You manage the communication bandwidth, so that look into tools. Make sure you really, really, really hone in on that common time zone thing. That's really important, okay? And make it comfortable for everyone as much as possible. Visibility for everyone. Not just the LA office, not just the Austin office, not just the Denver office, but everybody gets visibility. Use easy-to-use virtual tools, okay, and lead E effectively. These are my suggestions and recommendations. Any ideas, thoughts? You have all been very politely and kindly listening to me. You're either thinking this guy is nuts, or what am I doing, or what should I be doing? Any ideas, sir? Any thoughts?
Could you please add more details on your e-leadership?
Sure. Absolutely. One of the coolest ways to do this stuff is, I'm still learning this stuff, as I say, I'm learning from you guys, the other generation, but I do stuff like what? Simple, all these selfies. I do video selfies now, people are doing selfies. They stand there like the Kim Kardashians of the world do that, but I don't do that because I'm way better looking than her. But what I do is I do video selfies. I get into the office. Good morning, guys. Hey, John, how's it going? What's your name? Vlad. So, hello, Vlad. How's it going? Great job yesterday, Vlad. I appreciate what you did. Vlad, I'd like you to do this, do this, do this. It's personal. It's a quick message. Guess what? I don't have to write an email, which is nice. I hate writing. It hurts my fingers, carpal tunnel, right? And on top of that, what do you call it? It's personal, but it's connecting with him, and it's also giving him direction, right? And it's personal as well. It's only going to him. If he wishes to share it with everyone, then he can as well. So little things like that. Part of leadership is to at least once connect with the team ideally. Ideally have at least one connection. And it doesn't have to be right up front. You might want to have a little bit of a break-in period for the virtual presence for a month or two and then fly out, okay? Because by then you kind of broken a little bit of the ice, and now you can do this a little bit of this virtual stuff. Then you bring in the real leader in you, right? You remain very sensitive. Obviously, this is a bit of an obvious statement to such a diverse crowd, but you remain very sensitive to the cultural differences, of course. You honor and respect those. You understand. Like, for example, if you go to Australia, anyone here from Australia? No. Really? Oh, cool. Wow. So I was working for this consulting firm, so no offense meant, but I was working for this consulting firm, and they put us through orientation about English. This thing, the whole world speaks English, correct? But there's British English, American English, and then there is our good friends Australian English. And there's certain words that are offensive here that are cool in Australia and vice versa. There's a word in Australia, again, please don't take any offense here, James, but the word roots, apparently, is rude in Australia. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so because the reason I know that is all the Australians come to Canada, and there's a Roots clothing store. They all stand outside Roots and take pictures. Everybody, it's an Australian standing outside. Why would you take a picture with this store? It's like apparently something Roots. So we were trained that if you go to Australia, don't wear any Roots wear in the office. Don't wear a Roots T-shirt. Okay, it's rude. Don't use that word a lot because we talk about root cause analysis. We talked about the root cause analysis. What's the issue? Let's get to root cause analysis. Well, that might potentially offend someone in Australia. A simple example of that. That's part of e-leadership. You learn the lingo. You go to Newfoundland. I went and worked in Newfoundland. Newfoundland has its own Newfoundland dictionary of English. You learn that. You pick up on that stuff. It's important to understand that. Okay? I think I'm being told I need to get kicked out. So all kinds of people are coming and looking at me, so I think I need to leave. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry about that delay. I went over today.